So the subject is professional development in the business of agriculture. That's what we're talking about. Are your people prepared? Are you prepared? Are you ready to take your career and your company to the next level? If not, might you actually be not paying enough attention to professional development to get to the next level? Hey, Damian Mason here with a question before we hop into this episode of the Business of Agriculture. If you farm for a living, you employ a lot of amazing technology, from your inputs that you put into the soil to the tractor that you sit in, your combine, the amazing data that it harvests. But has your soil analytics kept up technologically with everything else in your farming operation? I would venture to say that no, it is not. Sure, you check for your nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium, your micronutrients as well. But what about disease pressure? Do you know what diseases and what pests you're going to face next year? No, you don't. But you can now figure that out with Pattern Ag's predictive analytics. Think about it. They can tell you now with testing what the likelihood of facing nasty diseases, things like cyst nematode or sudden death syndrome, what the likelihood of you having this in your field, then you know how to prepare, how to treat, and where to invest your money. It's using technology to make you bigger yields and therefore make you bigger money. Go to www.pattern.ag to learn more. They are pioneering the way in predictive agronomy. Hey there, thanks for joining us for another fantastic episode of the Business of Agriculture. I've got a guy from way across the pond. His name is Sinjin Craner, and he is with a company called Agrarian. I'm talking about New Zealand. So he's not only across the pond, he's also south of the equator. And we're talking to each other on the same exact time, on the same exact Zoom call, but it's a different day where he is than where I am. Anyway, he was introduced to me by my buddy, Chrissy Wozniak. If you don't know Chrissy, she's got a podcast of her own called North American Ag. It's cool. She's smart. She's got great guests. And she said, you know what, bring on Sinjin and talk to him about this topic. And I wanted to because I kind of start with this basis. My degree is in agricultural economics, as you might know, from Purdue University. A good 10 or 15 years before I was there, one of the professors said, you know what, we need a sales curriculum. We need to teach kids how to sell. And he was ridiculed by the academia community. We're a university. We don't teach sales. Well, the reality is about 2/3 of the kids who were coming out of Purdue, unless you were a veterinarian or a lot of very, very technical stuff, you probably went into a sales role. And so I took 2 sales classes, very good ones, in fact. And I find it interesting that still today, many people that are employed in sales have never taken a sales class. They've done very little professional development for the profession that they are in. And that's why I said, Sinjin, come on, talk to me about this. So I kind of gave you my backstory, why I think this is a cool topic and why you tie into it. New Zealand, US, Canada, Western Europe, it doesn't matter where you are right now. This is a problem. Yes?
Yeah, 100%, Damon, and thanks for having me. I mean, it's all about understanding the buyer's brain, right? And it's interesting. First thing you said about profs and their sort of running to the hills and distaste of sales that's sometimes below them. We know that sales is lifeblood of any agricultural business, right? Any agribusiness, your seed, your feed, commodities, all the rest of it. I'll first of all say I've met plenty of poor professors because what says they're really good at attaining knowledge and not very good at applying knowledge, okay? So knowledge not used is useless, right? So it doesn't matter how many letters you have after your name. You can have this kind of badge of academia. But I think there was a wonderful quote. I can't remember. It's like, academic is like a truffle hound, only trained for one thing. So it's like. By the way, you got very British, by the way, and I should tell our listeners, you do reside in New Zealand. Your company Agrarian is in New Zealand. You speak it all over the place, and you have books, but you are British. A truffle hound. By the way, we don't have those so much here in the United States. A truffle hound is an amazing critter, but all it can do is go out and sniff out truffles. So what you're saying is, back to the training thing, and by the way, I don't mind that you bash on professors. I think that's a great thing to do. And in fact, I do sometimes myself. They're very, very highly trained, meaning they're very highly educated, and sometimes I have a dose of arrogance. And anything that doesn't involve having multiple degrees is somehow beneath them. And that's bullshit. Yeah, it is. It's totally. I mean, sales is so dissed as a profession, but most really, really good salespeople make more than the average CEO. And so I butchered that quote. It was, many an academic is like a truffle hound, an animal so trained and bred for one narrow purpose that it is no good for anything else. This is by Jacob Venner. So Jacob's right here is that, we all have this aversion to sales and this sort of yuckiness because we've really been burnt by really, 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 really shit sales experiences. And the problem is when people get worse, you have a choice as a agriculture business. You just got to get better. You got to get better. And we're so bad at the seller mindset. So, just before we were coming on, I talked about, the problem with sales is selling. Everyone's trying to sell to us. Everyone's salesy. And no one's actually understanding that actually it's about a buyer mindset and how people buy, not selling, because you won't sell until someone buys. So it's really, really important to understand that.
I think I opened it up by saying professional development, and there's probably somebody that says, wait a minute, you told me it was going to be professional development, and now you're talking about sales. Well, I think first off, there's plenty of other professional development. You can talk about leadership skills, management training, how to better empathize with your, your inferior, your direct reports, whatever that thing should be. But we're going to mostly focus on sales because I talked about it in my business book. By the way, I wrote a business book 4 years ago. It's geared to small business in particular. And I did a whole section on sales in there because I said, if you don't have sales, you have no business.
It's your oxygen. It's your lifeblood, right? And, it's very, very important we understand sales. I've always said that psychology is a sales superpower. So, it's really interesting. Funny enough, I was given this book by one of the big dealerships here, Frank Lee, Pass the Calf. He talks about the 8 successful behaviors. This is sort of oldie woldy. Yeah. And I read it really, really quickly. And it was all about the seller behavior. There was nothing about buyer behavior. Yeah. And I was like, what's going on here? Because what's happening is no one's going to sell something until someone buys. So we need to understand that often when you talk about that whole professional development intro, Damien, sometimes you as a salesperson, as agricultural or rural rep, where you're selling feed, tractors, machinery, headers, chaser bins, whatever you're doing, you are the product. So the thing is, if you don't invest in your own professional development, they are buying you. Yeah. They're buying you as a rep. Because sometimes, there's this commoditization, like we said before we came in, there's 100 seed companies, there's 50 dealerships, there's loads of feed companies chasing all over. Sometimes the differentiation is you and the way in which you make the buying experience superior and better for them by the questions you ask, by the curiosity, by the way you prevent and handle objections, but most importantly, how you carry yourself with confidence and conviction in your sales conversation. I mean, Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence, it's all very well to have sales intelligence. You've got to have emotional intelligence as well, because you've got to understand how you land, how you're received and perceived. So you've got to really, really dial in. And this kind of show up, throw up, verbal vomit, telling ain't selling routine, it just doesn't bloody work anymore.
Well, you gave us a bunch. Show up and throw up and telling ain't selling. The point is, a lot of people think that sales training is you walk in there and you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, you tell them a funny story, or, used to be, tell a joke, tell a dirty joke, whatever the old thing used to be. And that's all bullshit. It's not that anymore. What it really is, and I like what your take is on it. I said, and I've said it a number of times in business, selling is understanding a person's problem and figuring out how you can be the solution to their problem.
Absolutely.
That's it. And what you just said is, it's not all this thing that some folks that are turned off by it, they think they're going to get, coached on how to be a huckster or go through the good, better, best selling, closing methodology. And I've learned all those things. But what I just said, and what I taught my wife when she had a sales job, she said, you know what, that's a really good way of putting it. And she said something very complimentary. She says, everything I know about selling, I've learned from you. And I said, like, what is that? She says, you always let them talk. I didn't used to. I used to go in there and tell them all about what I was pitching. And she says, then you always ask them what experience they've had in the past. And then you always say, who are your customers? Who is the audience? Who are we talking about? What do you think of it? And you just keep going through all that. And then it's then understanding their situation and then saying, okay. And by the way, I think there's another thing, St. John, you can correct me here. Then you say, I can be your solution, unless you can't be.
100%. So, I mean, the problem is, let's talk about that. Let's break that down a wee bit. One thing I'll challenge you on a wee bit is it's not just finding out what your particular farming client's problem is. It's this specificity of that problem. So I always talk about specificity spits cash. It's one of my mantras that I was taught. What I mean by that, specificity spits cash. Now, I'm still sober. It's only 8:20 in the morning here in New Zealand. And I can say that word. It's only taken about 5 years to pronounce it. But specificity means that, it's a uniqueness. And, every farm and every farmer is different. And if you don't acknowledge that in your conversation, then, it's like Zig Ziglar. You're going to die in generalities. You've got to be dealing in specificities. So it's really important that when you are talking to your farming client, that you do not assume the sale. Because if you assume the sale, you basically, the fear response, their amygdala, their biological brain turns on and they'll shut shop. So what happens is when you assume the sale, like most traditional reps do, your buyers don't feel safe. And when someone doesn't feel safe with you, do you think they're going to be vulnerable with you? Do you think they're going to tell you about all their problems? Do you think you can have a deep, rich, really good conversation where you're surfacing the real problems, the specific problems they're facing? Because if you don't, and you're sort of shallow in your conversation and they don't feel safe, you're not going to get a depth. Your propensity to convert is going to be really bad. Your sales manager is going to be all over it, and you're going to come back bouncing around like a rabbit, happy ears going, yeah, had a great conversation. Well, tell me what made it a great conversation. So did they talk about detail? Did they talk about the buying committee? Did they talk about the urgency? Did they talk about the priority? Did they talk about the budget? Did they talk about the experience they had previously? So we've got to dig deeper. This superficial, shallow, good old boy turn up that you're talking about, Damien, 100% agree with you. It just doesn't bloody work, because if anything else, it just pisses farmers off, because they don't want rapport. They want their specific problems solved, and they want proof and truth that you can do that, because we know that farmers listen to other farmers more than anything, and that's a whole nother discussion.
St. John, I'm not even going to talk about just farmers. Let's face it. I've got audience, and you do too, with my clients. Maybe they're in crop insurance and they say, oh, well, you only sell to farmers. Sometimes there's a pitch to lenders. Sometimes there's intermediaries between all this stuff. But anyway, it doesn't matter who the customer is in this regard. It's just anybody in ag and everybody in ag, anybody and everybody in ag. Let's just kind of go through this one thing. We love to say something, and I've heard it a number of times. Well, the good thing is in ag, it's all about relationships. And I've heard that forever. I heard that 30 years ago when I was in sales myself. I hear it today, and I say, well, maybe kind of. And I was like, first off, do you think that's only in ag? And then also, do you think that even matters as much in any industry as it once did? I can get on my phone right now. I can get on this phone of mine that's sitting over here somewhere, and I can order up a whole bunch of stuff that I don't need a sales rep to do. Hell, in ag, I can go on a number of different websites and I can have a semi load of agricultural inputs dropped here at my place, period. Anyway, I think we overuse this relationship thing, maybe all the time, but especially in ag. And the hell of it is, it's sometimes very true. It's about relationships, and sometimes not true at all. So you give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's too simplistic It's too simplistic of a statement, Damien, to say it's all about relationships. It's okay. So define how your relationship is unique. Is it the fact that you're really curious and you ask really intelligent questions that serve their interests rather than your own? Is it the fact that you go the extra mile? Is it the fact that you've done your prep and your planning beforehand? Is it the fact that you understand their unique situation and you can bring compelling, credible evidence that you've solved that for another farmer with a very similar system to them? So, relationships, a relationship needs to be a deep relationship. I can be a good old boy. I can have a coffee. I can have a beer with anyone, right? I can, from the dustman to the CEO. But the reality is that's not going to convert. What's going to convert is when that customer understands, one, that they feel safe with me, two, that I've understood them, felt them, seen them, heard, understood them, and they go, this guy really gets my business. Now, the number one complaint of farmers is, I don't go with that rep because he doesn't get me or he doesn't get my business. Or worse, he offends my wife, who's often the joint 50-50 equity partner.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, can I speak to the boss? Well, I am the boss. Okay, you can just off your Todd and don't come back for 2 generations.
By the way, that's especially in this day and age, 2023. My first property in the country, some old timer types came in, and I think, traveling for business, or I may have been in the back of the property. I don't know which, but either way, told my wife he wanted to speak to the man of the house because he had to talk to him about some business. And my wife said, well, I can talk about business also. Well, he didn't talk about business with either of us. What you're talking about there, I want to kind of give you an anecdote. I work with a group called Extreme Ag. And my listeners might know this. Extreme Ag is a group of forward-thinking, very smart producers, generally larger scale farmers. And they do product trials and whatnot. And I produce a podcast for them called Cutting the Curve and produce videos for them. I was in a farm at Tennessee. One of our guys, like 8,500 acre operation in Tennessee, smart dude. And we were talking about this very thing. Some person is there that we're supposed to do some work with. And I said, Johnny, I got to tell you, I'm not sure that this guy right here, I'm just observing. He said, yeah, I don't think he knows anything. And you're talking about a person that has a couple dozen employees with all of his business enterprise. He's got a seed business and he's got his farming business. And if you send a salesperson to that guy, and it's just someone that thinks, well, yeah, I went in there and shook hands and a good old boy took him some pencils and a hat. If that person has no information to share, no ability to be a consultative salesperson to give actual product information, experiential, background and say, hey, you know what, this problem you have right here, I saw this 3 years ago in Georgia. This guy couldn't do any of that. This guy was a bumbling idiot. And the thing is, when you see that, you're like, this person believes that somehow sales is whatever that concocted thing was, Sinjin, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. Oh, yeah, just show up and be nice. Take an offer to buy him lunch. This guy doesn't need lunch bought for him. Jesus, he's got a major business operation. What he needed was a technical expertise, and this person didn't bring it. And so I think that you're talking about that day is done.
Oh, that day is well done. I mean, it's like, you really need to make your conversations count. When I train sales managers and I train sales teams, they come back bouncing and saying, had a great conversation, just had a great conversation. And then we dive deeper, like we said. And the fact is, if you make your conversations count and you're truly a professional who plans and prepares and customizes and thinks about the specific questions you need to ask that particular farmer because you've done your homework and you've done your DD, your due diligence. Do you think that's going to be a better sales experience for that customer? It's going to be a much better sales experience because they go, hey, this guy's actually done some homework on us. He's spoken to a few people who know. He understands my system. He understands my stock, my cropping, my rotation, my irrigation, my sensors, my telemetry, whatever it is. You literally have, it's like that first impression really, really counts. And you are judged by the quality of your questions. So the point is, the good old days of showing up and throwing up and being that good old boy, as we say, it just doesn't work. We need to have a much more intelligent conversation that facilitates and surfaces the real reasons or urgency or pain or priority that farmer has on that specific issue. And then what we do is, if we do that, really,
I know you keep saying farmer, and I want to point out this: if your business is calling on implement dealers, it's the same thing.
Oh, totally.
It's the same exact thing.
Same ecosystem, same principle, because we're talking about the buyer's brain here, right? So as human beings, we're control freaks, right? We don't like change. And if anyone takes control of a situation, we feel we go into a threat response. We go into the fight, flight, freeze response. So what we do is we'll shut down. You don't want your customer to shut down. You want them to open up. Right. But the traditional model makes them shut down. So, and then they come back and go, oh, didn't get anything from them. Well, criticism closes doors, curiosity opens them. If there's one thing I could tell anyone, if they really want to be a pro at sales in the rural sector, whether selling to farmers or selling to dealers or selling to intermediaries or agronomists or farm consultants, is focus on having a quality sales conversation. And that comes from being really planned and prepared and asking really good questions, because you're only going to get taken seriously when you ask really good questions. And if the questions are generic, dull ones, predictable, like, what's your pain point? What keeps you up at night? How can I win your business back? You're just going to be sent packing. I mean, it's just a joke.
All right. All right. I want to hear more about the buyer's mind. Before I do that, I want to ask you, the listener, do you want to make more money? Of course you do. All right. If you didn't say yes, you're probably not tuned into the right podcast, because we like talking to people who want to make more money. If you're a farmland owner or a farmer, do you want to make more money? The answer should, of course, be yes. And no, I'm not asking you to, sell your soul. I'm not asking you to do anything that's going to compromise yourself. I'm just telling you, you can maybe compromise by doing this. You can actually look at your business and say, can I get more revenue sources? That's what Truterra helps farmland owners do. Truterra is focused on supporting farmland owners at every stage of their sustainability journey, farmers at their sustainability journey. If you want to plan, make, and maintain a regenerative management practice change to your farm, you can do this through Truterra. The agronomic, economic, and environmental sustainability of your operation for the long term will be enhanced by going to TruterraAg.com. Truterra, Truterra. The point is, we're talking about nitrogen reduction. We're talking about carbon sequestration. We're talking about getting some money for the acres that you already farm, and then putting in cover crops or doing a few things that might actually make your operation better, make your soil better, and you'll get paid for it. That's what you can do through Truterra Ag. That's it, TruterraAg.com. All right. So the buyer's mind, St. John, we don't even think about that too much, and we should. And the buyer wants something, or maybe the buyer wants nothing. This is the tough part. You know, I once met a guy that came up in the feed business. They said, go find a dairy farm out there and sell them some feed. Well, maybe
Right.
what if the dairy operator already had all the feed they needed? What's the buyer want? What does the buyer mind? What's the thing that we don't know about the buyer's mind? Because we are buyers. That's the hell of it. We are buyers as well as sellers.
We've got to get out of our own way as salespeople. When we're business development, and we use all these other words like territory manager and business development, client success manager. Let's just cut the crap. We're talking about sales here, right? So what it is we need to understand that where that buyer's brain currently is at. The first thing that buyer's brain is at, if you're cold and you're rocking up a driveway and you're talking to someone new, whether it's in an office or whether it's in on the farm, they've got a fight-flight response because they've been burnt and bruised by yucky salespeople before. Yep. So they're going to be very, very high on their cynicism and skepticism. You got to cut through that pretty damn quick, not by being that good old boy, but asking some really good questions. What happens is they're on high alert because that reptilian brain, or amygdala, which is at the back of our brain, our earliest brain, which is our most powerful brain, by the way, which was going 10 to the dozen during COVID because it's our survival response, right? We as soon as we see a sales rep, they represent what we call loss aversion. So loss aversion, Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. He was a Nobel Peace Prize winner on behavioral economics. He talks about this concept of loss aversion. Salespeople represent loss to us deep in our biological brain because we think, what does a farm or someone, Damien, what do you think when someone's come to sell you something and they're driving up your driveway to your farm and your operation and you haven't met them before?
They want me to give them money for something.
Yeah. What are they here to sell me now? I bet they're here to sell me something I don't want. So we've got to deal with that. And what we wanted to do is we need to break it down straight away, that cold response into a warm response, talking about maybe some of the farms that we farm near them. So we might say, hey, I work with Bill down the road. I just want to pop in, introduce myself. We're doing some work with Bill on his cover crops. We've been getting great yield on this. Not sure if that's something that's even going to work for your farm. Would love to come and talk to you at some point down the track. And then they'll say, okay, so you work with Bill because Bill's an alpha farmer, right? Bill is someone who recognizes. So again, for your listeners here, you've got to really pick your farmers because using that is going to make that cold call a warm call, right? So we're diffusing the natural biological threat response by going,
Sure.
Oh, you know Bill. Okay. Oh, you're doing some jobs for Bill. So that doesn't happen all the time. But the reality is it's no good just coming in and just going, oh, I've got this product. Do you want to buy it? Mm-hmm. I've got some seed in the truck. I want to sell it. Right. So what we do is the buyer's brain has what we call reactance theory. Farmers, particularly, scale very highly on agency or autonomy. They are absolute control freaks because there's so much they can't control, right? Tariffs, schedules, war, currency, all those sort of things. If you try and control the sale with a farmer, you're going to lose because they're not going to feel safe. And because they're not going to feel safe, they're not going to open up. The most important thing is you want to open up a farmer by asking them really good questions. So what you want to do is you want to talk about the fact you got a result for Bill and talk about that as a way of creating some warmth and some familiarity. And that's where that guard is going to drop down. You do not start selling to them there. You are literally just introducing yourself. And then you're going to make an appointment because you're a professional, all right? And then you're going to come back and you're going to do your homework and you're going to make sure. But here's the thing, 9 times out of 10, if you do it in the way I've told you, they'll go, oh, yeah, you work with Bill. Oh, tell me about the crops he's been putting in. What are you doing with them?
Right.
And they'll tell you. So it's really important in that buyer's brain that you put them at ease straight away, recognizing what emotional state they're going to be in.
Everybody thinks that you've got to, you got to be pushy. Not everybody. People that don't understand sales think you got to be pushy. And I know I've worked with tens of thousands of in my speaking business. Obviously, I've bought stuff for ever since I was a adult. I reject the notion that you need to be pushy.
Agree.
What I think that I've read this before. There's one thing though that's not pushy, but a lot of folks that are in sales even struggle with this: asking for the business. And that is something that my wife has actually complimented me on over the years. She says, the one thing that you do, whether it's selling speaking engagements or anything like that, once we've gone through this and you ask these questions, you ask for the business, because we just spent the time together. I assume that I assume that you thought I was a fit. So you came to me. So now let's go ahead and just, what do we do next? Are we ready to button this up? And I'm told that that's a real struggle still, even with professionals in business, is asking for business. Is that true?
Absolutely. So the thing is, true confidence comes from competence, Damien. There's a correlation between the two. You can't fake it till you make it. Now, it's terrifying being thrown the keys to a truck and then driving up some driveways. The thing is, sales, because we've got such an aversion and an immunity and a yucky reaction to traditional salespeople, we have to focus on soft sales. This is why psychology is so important. We don't focus on the behavior of the salesperson. We need to focus first on the behavior of the buyer. And what that means is that we need to understand and meet them where they're currently at. The example I just gave you previously is you're meeting the buyer's brain where they're at. What's happening is we're already in prefrontal mode. We're in human brain mode because we've got our pitch and we're ready to go. They're in amygdala mode. They're in reptilian brain mode. Like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
Is he a friend or is he a foe? So we've got to meet them there and then take them through that process. So, all the things that we do, always be closing and hardcore selling and puppy dog closes and all this kind of crap, it doesn't work. This is the thing, my friend. If you get the conversation right and you ask the right questions at the right time in the right way to the right people, and it doesn't actually take very much to train and teach that, you'll get your customers to close themselves. You don't need to close them because they'll go, oh, okay, so the impact implication this, okay, so I understand the cost of inaction here if I don't do that. So, okay, so tell me, how much is that? Oh, have you got a payment terms on that? Can you do that? Can I speak to someone and have a look at that on their farm? Yeah, sure you can, absolutely. They're closing themselves because the conversation does all the heavy lifting for you, Damien. It doesn't need to be a hardcore closing sales. As I said to you, the problem with sales today is selling. The problem with sales today is selling. Stop selling and start serving with a genuine intent to serve through the quality of your questions. And then the conversations will take care of the close.
Yeah. And I guess I didn't want to point it out that we're hardcore pushing, but I can tell you that I've been around long enough that if there are some people that are not very committal, and especially in this corporate environment, you talk about selling to farmers. Well, they're usually, in charge. But I can tell you that there's committee. And if you are selling to anything where there's multiple people that are somehow making the decision, it can be a damn boondoggle. And this, Sinjin, that's where you have to say and be assertive and say, I understand your issue. I think I'm absolutely confident I can solve your problem and be there for you. Are we ready to do this? Because otherwise they'll say, well, we need 4 more Zoom calls. And, let's talk about professional development. I can tell you a bunch of people listening to this podcast right now are driving down the road saying, damn it, Damon, you just nailed it. I'm trying to get this account and I know I can fix their problems. And I said, but my God, I've got 11 different people and we have to have constant Zoom calls and they can't seem to make a decision. You're almost better off. I just took my glasses off to be emphatic here, dear listener. You're almost better off to not even get the business because they're going to keep you on Zoom calls from now until the year 2026. Am I right?
Can I give your listeners a gift? Right. When you're talking about corporates, the most important thing is you need to ask this question. You ask it this way. You go, do you mind me asking, Damien, how does a potential decision like this one get made around here? So what they're doing is they're identifying the buyer committee and the way the decision is made. Okay, what do those people need to see from us? Now I'm starting to use a we language, not a me language, because I'm building the bond with that initiator. that sponsor who might not be the economic buyer. What happens is sometimes when we get an inbound lead, we get all frothy and frenzied and just get super excited, like we think we've got the sale and we're booking our trip to Hawaii, right? It is. You've got to, whoa. You've got to calm the farm and go, okay, that sounds great, Damien. Tell me, so why is this important to you now? Why are you looking at this now? What caught your eye about it? What is the particular problem you're trying to solve here? You mustn't go into assumptive sales mode. You've got to stay in qualification mode. It's really, really important. You want to qualify the absolute bejesus out of that prospect. So when you then come back to present it to your sales manager who's bumping on the desk for quota and target, you have properly qualified and you ticked all the boxes. It's what we call happy ears syndrome. They come in hot and then they ghost you and you just go, what's gone on? The reason is you haven't understood how that buyer committee buys. So just ask that question. Another one, they've got an existing supplier. What do most really bad, poorly trained reps do? They slag the shit out of the competition and go, "Oh yeah, no, those guys are crap. They're useless. Don't know why you're working with them."
Bashing on the competition.
It's bad. It says more about you than it does about them. Right. What you do instead is you use reverse psychology and you say, "Yeah, no, they're a great outfit. Those guys. Would you like to know what makes us different?" So what we're doing is we're embracing and pivoting. We're complimenting. We're not criticizing. And then we'll say, hey, Damien, so tell me, what makes them work so well for you on the farm? Mm-hmm. And you go, oh, okay, this guy's interested. So, again, we're complimenting or criticizing. A lot of what I'm doing is reverse psychology. It's simple thing of not agitating that buyer's brain to get that reptilian brain response. We're trying to put them at ease. We're trying to make them feel safe. Never, ever, ever assume the sale. Stay curious, keep qualifying, keep using questions, and you will get more sales. It's very, very simple.
All right, I will go through a couple more that I believe, and I think you scolded me a little bit when I said I'm assertive in asking for the business, and I guess I'm maybe I should be better about letting them just tell me they want it, and usually they do. Oftentimes they do, but I'm telling you, when it's purchased by committee, you'll be dangling in the wind for eons if you don't finally say, "Are we ready to do this?" Because then usually they'll say, "Well, it's not really my decision." Well, whose is it?
Yeah. So this is why it's very important to ask that question right up. How does a potential decision like this one get made around here? They will tell you, the buying committee, okay, so what do they need to see? What do they need to see? What do they need to see? Because if you don't understand who's who in the zoo and the role and rank of that buying committee, you're going to be blowing the wind. Your sales cycle is going to blow out big time and go, no, we're going to land it this quarter. You're not, because you don't actually understand the drivers of that. Okay, so what do they need? Have they got budget? Has he got budget signing on for it, his or her? It's very, very important you understand that. Otherwise, it's all guesswork. You're just flying blind. You've got to qualify the prospect.
What about the old problem of, if you're terrified to ask for the business, one thing that happens, and you talked about asking the right questions, there's a thing that I think I've dealt with this. They won't stop talking and they won't ask for the business. And so they almost end up talking themselves out of a deal. Is that a real thing still? Talking yourselves out of a sale?
It depends on the emotional intelligence of the sales rep, right? I often talked about, if you show me the manager and I'll show you the team. If that manager's really good at coaching their team on being self-aware and self-regulating as a sales rep, if there's one intelligence I want from a salesperson, is an emotional intelligence. They have an ability, a magic to observe how they come across, how they're being received and perceived. So if you're too busy, if you're spending more than, say, 20% talking, and then you're not listening, and when you're not listening, you're not learning, you're not surfacing those buyer motives. That beautiful question, do you mind me asking, Damien, I know you're a busy bloke, why did you agree to meet with me? Because obviously there's something that you're trying to, what is the problem that you're trying to solve here? Immediately that gets your defenses down, and we're surfacing the buying motive. So that emotional intelligence means when it's sold, and shut up and move on to the next stage, which is, okay, right. So, that's the most important thing. But the other thing is, if you can't get someone to commit, this is something that I teach to my teams, is you need to find a foothold. No one gets married on the first date, Damien. I didn't. It doesn't work well. No one gets married on the first date. What you want to do is you want to find a foothold. And you can say, hey, what I reckon we should do is, I think we should run a little experiment here. And I think we should do a trial here. And we're going to see how that goes. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you love the hell out of them. You make sure they have a wonderful experience. Everything goes well. You stick with them. You don't just flog them off to service or to customer success teams. You stick with them throughout. And then you blow on the embers of that success that you created, and then you create more and more and more, because farmers aren't going to give you their whole farm straight away. You know, they're going to go, who are you? I'm cynical. I'm skeptical. I've had reps overpromise, agritech, whatever it happens to be. Yeah. Give me a trial. I'll do a toe dip with you. So I just frame it. It's like, well, why don't we give it a trial? And we can run a bit of an experiment here. And that piques the curiosity of the brain and the intrigue and going, yeah, that's good, because they feel safe then, right, Damien? It's really important. You've got to signal that safety. Oh, yeah, no, we're going to do your whole crop here, a whole lot. We're going to do the whole farm. Yes, you want the whole farm. If you're getting the right buying signals, go for it. But otherwise, find the foothold first. Frame it as a trial, frame it as an experience. So they've got a comparison, they've got an option.
Yeah, I like that. So, and we're going to get out of here on this because I don't want to be all night here, but or morning, as it were, for you in New Zealand. Okay, so the big option there is understand emotional intelligence, and it's something that you can learn. But the main thing is understand that when the deal is done, and just stop talking. You just said then also offer a trial. I'm just going through some of the tips. Offer a trial. Understand where they're coming from, and that's a big one that you've reiterated. Their brain is defensive. Correct. Your brain is offensive, and you can screw yourself up by being too offensive. The other one, then, the question asking, and what I think you're saying is generic questions are overdone. You're taking maybe client, customer, operation specific questions.
Absolutely.
This is tell us about that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. All right. And the last thing I say, Damien, on that is it's not so much what you ask, but how you ask. So some of the best chat show hosts and some of the best journalists put their guests at ease. You want to do exactly the same with the prospect in front of you. You want to put them at ease, because they're going to be in that fight, freeze until they feel warmth or they feel comfortable and feel safe for you. The best chat show hosts get all the scoops, they get all the stories, because they make the guest feel at ease. And then the guest just spills out their guts. And everyone goes, how the hell did Jay Leno get that out of so-and-so? How did Michael Parkinson get that out of so-and-so? And it's because you put them at ease.
I like it. That's your last thought, or you got one more for me? We talked about professional development, which really means professional sales development. So in the title, I'll do that. Make sure that the person doesn't log on here and think they're doing it. Because a lot of these people who are listening to my show are in sales. And by the way, I guess my thought would be, and then you can wrap me up here, more people are in sales than think they are in sales.
Everyone's in sales, Damien. Everyone's in sales. I'm trying to teach my children to clean up, get the shoes ready, get lunchbox ready this morning before coming on this podcast. I mean, I think we're more in the sort of persuasion, negotiation kind of phase. The first sale is to yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Okay. So you need to work hard on yourself as much as you need to work hard on your product, because often you are the product. And the thing that basically distinguishes the top tier, the top 10% from the 90%, is they have very high emotional intelligence, and they know themselves and how they come across. So they can handle themselves. They can adapt the line of questioning. And they've got real curiosity and real intelligence, which just creates a wonderful buying experience. A safe buying experience is where you surface real buying motives, which will make sure that you have faster sales cycles.
One thing that you've said now a couple of times is that understanding that, first off, everybody sells. They do, and if you are in business, you're in sales or sales support at the very least. But you said, understand that you are the product, and there's a lot of blowback on that. No, I'm not the product. I'm selling widgets. Trust me, you are as much the product as. First off, in an era where I can go and buy anything probably online, and we already talked about that, the customer is buying you. What they're buying is your personality, your solution, your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, your ability to get stuff done quickly, whatever that thing is, it's what you are. So I like that part of it right there, that you are the product.
Yeah, you are, because sometimes it's the only thing that will differentiate. And if you don't differentiate, then you just go online and buy in a farmer's buying club, right? Okay, so you got to be adding the value, maybe your candidness, your preparation, your professionalism, your specific advice that you can provide, some insights you can provide from other farmers. You have to make sure that you have a point of differentiation in your buying experience. And often the differentiation is yourself. So work on yourself as much as you work on your sales.
Yeah, and I think that's the other part of it, professional development. I gave the example of someone that showed up and didn't, other than being a warm body, what thing do you bring? What thing do you offer? And I would say that right now we're in a situation, St. John, where here in the United States, jobs are pretty good. Every employer is still saying, man, I could use a few more people. So maybe there's not a lot of pressure right now to get better. But trust me, I've been around. I've been running my own business for 3 decades. There's an ebb and a flow to everything, right? And so
it's cyclical. It's like a biological system on any farm, right? Winter's always coming. So the reality is complacency, comes from familiarity. And so, the best sports teams, when they're winning, you got to play better players to get better game, right? Okay, so you got to, still sharpen still. So it's really important. You're constantly working on yourself and working on your sales skills. The twos aren't mutually exclusive. If they're an amazing, good human being, they'll be a great salesperson. But if they're lack of self-awareness, lack of self-regulation, and they're not emotionally intelligent, they talk all the time, they don't listen, they don't adapt, you're going to lose the sale.
It's about discipline. It's about discipline and work ethic in some regards. You say, "Oh, I'm not golden-throated. I don't have the gift of gab." I'm not sure that that's really what it comes down to.
I can teach anyone to think on their feet, just as long as they're planned and prepared. I mean, every objection is as predictable as the sun coming up, right? Price, time, money, high authority, existing supplier. We act like they're surprised. They come up like the sun.
Price, time. Wait a minute. The objections.
So there's what we call the 4 horsemen: price, time, higher authority. I've got to speak to the boss, or I've got to speak to the wife, or I've got another supplier. I've already given your listeners how to manage the other supplier. We use reverse psychology. We compliment.
Yeah. By the way, you're dead on. Every single one of those are the ones that are the 4 horsemen. So I just want to make sure we got that. There's a last nugget from you. Hey, if they want to connect with you, somebody wants to hire you to train their people or follow your stuff, where do they do that?
The best place to get hold of me is on LinkedIn, and I'm sure Damien's generous team will put the link for my profile in the show notes. I also have a bunch of goodies if people want to understand. I've got a rural sales ebook, podcast, and mailing list, and it's ruralsalessuccess.com. So that's ruralsalessuccess.com, and you can grab all you want there. Everything's free. If you like it, grab it. And then if you want to reach out,
ruralsalessuccess.com. I also see here we got agrarian.co.nz as in New Zealand, agrarian.co.
That's the business. But if you want some cheat sheets, or you want an ebook on how you use psychology and make it your rural sales superpower, get onto Rural Sales Success. There's a bunch of cheat sheets there, ebook, podcast, email, all you want. But again, it's there for people to use. I love to play the long game.
You're awesome. Same St. John Crainer. Thanks for being here.
Damien, thanks for having me, and safe travels next week, my man.
Always. Till next time, I'm Damien Mason, and this is The Business of Agriculture. Well, that concludes another fantastic episode of The Business of Agriculture. This episode was brought to you by Pattern Ag. Everybody in agriculture understands the importance of soil health. We also keep an eye on our soil better than we ever did through advanced soil testing. But what if there was a company that provided predictive analytics, not just checking out nutrients and all the elements that are in there, but also could tell you the degree of risk you face with disease and pest pressure? That's right, Pattern Ag can do that. They actually can tell you, hey, you're going to have a real issue here. You can proactively treat for corn rootworm or cyst nematode or sudden death syndrome before the problem actually starts costing you yield. Go to pattern.ag, that's www.pattern.ag, to find the nearest rep that can help you start doing better for your soil.